Hello and welcome back to Rappler's Rolling Coverage leading up to Election Day tomorrow. It is the eve before, and joining us, you've heard from the Binay camp, we've heard from Grace Poe's camp. Now we go to the ruling party, the Liberal Party. In front of me, two men I cannot wait to speak with. Edwin Lacerda, the presidential spokesperson, and next to him, Barry Gutierrez, the spokesperson of Mar Roxas. Gentlemen, welcome to Rappler.
Hi.
Thank you.
Nice office, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you they're working. See, they're laughing behind you. I won't say they bullied me, but no. Please assess the night before. Tell me where you stand right before voting day.
Well, the campaign is in very, very high spirits. Over the course of the past few weeks, the momentum we felt has shifted to us. Yesterday, we just had the meeting de Avance, and there was a very, very warm, very, very large reception for Mar and Lenny. So, we're upbeat. We're feeling good, and we think that we're going to win tomorrow.
Well, the wind is at Mar's back.
Yeah.
Like what Barry said, the ground has shifted, and you can see it perceptively actually in the ground. You've seen a lot of people moving to us. We have the silent majority. Those people who used to be silent, and I think you termed a new coin called the silent majority. Those who are still investigating for the president are leaning towards Mar. Those numbers are growing, and also the politicians have been added to us, and you see a lot of movements on the ground. We've shifted from the air war. Now the last day is the ground war, so everybody's gearing up for the ground war tomorrow.
And yet, if you go by the statistical surveys that we've had, right? And let me show you them again. If we can pull up the statistical, these are actually the surveys of SWS, Lilo, and Pulse Asia combined.
Right.
When you pull them up, you actually see performance from April 2014, 2015, and up to here. This phenomenal rise. The green is Duterte, Mar Roxas. Mar Roxas is not yellow. Mar Roxas is actually purple.
Okay.
So in this one, when you combine all of them, he still comes in third. Although there are, according to Pulse Asia in their survey, they felt that there was a 25%
Right.
group that could shift either way. So I guess let me first ask you the Duterte factor. Did this surprise you?
Well, somewhat, I suppose. Although from the start of the campaign, not just the campaign period officially, but from the start of the time that he actually declared as president, we were probably the only camp that was actually taking him seriously. Both Grace Poe and Jojo Binay were completely ignoring him. But you'll recall, as early as December, Mar and Mayor Duterte already had several, exchanges, to put it one way. So we're a bit surprised, yes, at the sudden surge in the last month. Although I suppose it's, given that he's an unconventional candidate, he speaks without filters, apparently, and apparently that appeals to a certain segment of the population. But as we've said, over the course of the past few weeks, his rise in the surveys has also been accompanied by a corresponding reaction on the other side of the fence. Because before, he was not being taken seriously by a large number of people. When he rose in the surveys, a sense of alarm actually, attached to a large segment of the population. And that's when they started taking a second look at Mar. And that's what we attribute his current rise in the polls to. That also was one of the strong factors that led to the convening and the active participation of what we now call the silent majority. Precisely that alarm over the rise of Duterte and all that it could imply if he would win the election. So it's, in a way, we look at his rise in the polls as also having very, very positive benefits for our own campaign.
Edwin, the president.
Sorry?
Go ahead. You were saying
What the survey doesn't capture are the following. You have the ground that's going to happen on on election day.
Right.
That's something you cannot capture. The second also is if you notice, the numbers of Mayor Duterte may have risen, but you also notice that the numbers of Mar didn't go down. It's because there are two factors there. Number one, people are wondering, and especially politicians are wondering, what's the program of government does Digong offer? It's very unpredictable. You've got severance of ties with other countries where there's a vast majority of Filipinos working overseas, US, Australia, Singapore. Then you have a bloody regime, a revolutionary government. These are some things that, as a politician, you would have to wonder, what does he really have to offer, and what's my place in all this political landscape that he proposes? The other matter also, the why politicians have not moved away from the administration, is the fact that the government has provided assistance to all local government units, regardless of political affiliation. Look, for the prime example here is Governor Bojidi of Isabela. He's not LP, and yet he has early on set out and said, I'm committed to the administration, I'm going to help Mar. These are the visible manifestations of what government has done. Sure, we're not a perfect administration, but we have done a lot of things which are not based on patronage politics. We don't do patronage politics because our commitment from the very start that the President has committed, he will provide all the basic assistance, necessities, services to the ground. And whether you are a governor who belong to LP or not, it's going to be provided you. And that's the reason why there is no vast movement at this point in time.
Yes.
You would see politicians moving away from LP,
Yes.
but you see the ground is holding and the ground is growing, the ground is firmer than ever because of all this. When you look at it from a macro perspective, from a politician's point of view, you've seen government delivering and you've seen the unpredictability of Digong's programs. So where do you stand here? I need to be where I am certain that I can serve my people, my constituents. That's the strength of LP, and we're growing.
And yet on Friday, Edwin, the President actually called on Mar Roxas and Grace Poe to come together, this
That's
unity,
correct.
right? What exactly was behind that? What did you want to happen? And how did you react to Grace's response?
Let me just say that, for instance, the threat for us who have gone through martial law, the statements made by Mayor Duterte are quite alarming. It's a threat to our way of life. It's a threat of dictatorship, the threat of instability. And for the President, who has worked so hard for the last 6 years, we have transformed Asia, the Philippines from Asia's sick man to the bright spot. It's something that you would not be willing to give away. And here's the threat that is, admittedly, he's the number one in the surveys. Is there a possibility for the forces of reform to band together? Admittedly, Grace and Mar belong to the forces of reform.
Yes.
They may differ on approaches, but basically they are from the same tree.
Right.
The President felt, let's do everything humanly possible to thwart this threat of dictatorship. Now, having said that, it does not mean that we cannot do this alone. We cannot do this without the help of the other camp. What we're saying is, perhaps the forces of reform can band together and overwhelm the threat of dictatorship, the threat of instability.
The Duterte camp sees that as a panic move. Is that what it is?
No, it's not. If you see our response immediately after Mar offered the statement, unfortunately for Senator Grace Poe, 20 minutes, if I recall, 20 minutes after
20 minutes.
she was in, Mar delivered the statement, she outrightly rejected the offer. It was unfortunate, actually.
Yes.
We felt it was unfortunate. And so that's where we are.
Rex Gatchalian just said that part of the reason they did was they felt that they were being asked to fold into the Mar campaign.
We'll never know. We will never know. That's all speculation, and that's all water under the bridge. We've moved on. The base has grown stronger. From a statistics point of view, they say that our votes will go to Grace. But the point is, our votes are so entrenched. You know why? Mar, it takes a while for you to consider Mar. With all the negatives against the administration, the MRT, you name it. For somebody to side with Mar, you have to go through all the lists of negatives. And then if you come out still convinced, then it's a solid, firm belief in Mar and the administration, because they've seen all warts and all. They've seen warts and all, and still came out believing in Mar. So it's a very solid group of believers and supporters for Mar. So that's why we're so, and it's growing, and it's really, really, literally growing in numbers. We have a strange, we've got a lot of moderate Duterte supporters after having heard Mayor Duterte speak on anything under the sun. Also wonder, what the hell what does he offer to the Filipino people? His promise to solve crime, stop crime in 6 months have been watered down. His jet skiing to the Scarborough show has been ridiculed. What does he fundamentally offer other than sound bites? That's a thinking Filipino would be wondering. Not to mention the fact that he has made fun of a dead missionary. Not to mention the fact that recent revelations of hidden wealth have been exposed. So that's where it's really now a fight between, and to our understanding and to our view of the political landscape, it's now a fight between Mar and Duterte. It's as simple as that. It's been framed that way.
I mean, isn't the rise of Duterte also, in some sense, the show of frustration, a little bit of an indictment against the present administration?
There is what Mayor Duterte has done was to latch onto the frustrations. But here's what he emphasized. He made an appearance that it is it's on a crisis level. Crime is so rampant. Everywhere you go, you'll be killed. You'll be harangued. You'll be intimidated. There's drugs all around the country. It's not what they made it out to be. And even his promises of solving crime are not true. We have, in fact, reduced. Mar has a very unsexy crime prevention program called Oplan Lambat, but patterned after the broken windows of Boston and New York.
Lots of details, lots of numbers, right?
Lots of numbers. It's a lot of meeting with the policeman, making sure that these things are done. But these are not sexy in the eyes of media. But it's a deliberate, programmatic way of reducing crime. In fact, it started in NCR. It's now moved on to other regions because it's been proven to be effective. You don't just show up and bring out a criminal and hopefully the next day crime would go down. It's a steady, week by week, day in, day out review of the crime situation in a particular locality.
Edwin, I'm just retweeting some of the stuff that you've said.
Right.
I just wanted to tell you what Rex actually said, why they rightly rejected it. He said that they had heard, right after Mar had said this, they had heard Congressman Reese on DZMM asking Grace Poe to fold in her campaign into Mar, and that was why they immediately rejected it.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that Congressman Irisu wasn't with us when the decision was made, when the plan was being done. It has always been the sentiment of Congressman Irise that, and also in all with due respect to the Grace camp, that we felt that Mar was really the better candidate.
Fantastic. And Barry, on the campaign trail, how did Mar change on the campaign trail?
Well, he really grew into the role of.
This was a different Mar, the campaign,
Yes,
the meeting de Avance Mar. I was actually, we were watching from here.
If you saw him during the earlier sorties, the ones that took place late 2015 and then early 2016, and you saw him late in the campaign, I'm talking April or May, you could see the evolution of Mar Roxas, the man of the people. Admittedly, before there was a certain, I suppose, discomfort. It's not just his comfort zone. Talking to a lot of people, being the person who had to actually touch base with common people all over the country. But it's something that he grew into. He grew more comfortable. He became more himself. He started to relax. He started to let down some of the barriers that he usually puts up. Those of us who have had the opportunity to actually work with him closely, to talk to him, know that at heart, he's a decent guy. He's a respectable guy, but he's also somewhat restrained. It's not. Sometimes many people mistake it for being suplado. It's not suplado. It's more. It's not really that comfortable being emotional or opening up. But later, during the campaign, you could see that he was bringing down the barriers. I was with him in Cebu, for instance, a few weeks ago, a gathering in one of the barangays in Mandaue. And really, I was amazed at the rapport that he immediately struck with the audience. He invited one of the women who was in the audience, who earlier, while he was approaching the stage, hugged him and told him, "Wag mo kami pababayaan." So he called her up the stage by name. He talked to her. He used her experience, her story, as the example for the speech that he was going to go into. At that point, he was talking about the continuation of programs like CCT, for Peace, and his future plans for expanding these anti-poverty programs. But the big difference really was, instead of just talking policy, instead of just talking statistics, which is normally what he was comfortable doing, he was able to relate it to the story of this specific individual. And the way he did it, the way he actually drew out the story from this person, the way he was relating to this person on a very, very individual level, you could see it, and the crowd could feel it. And if you saw the speech last night, it was also like that. And I think that once he let down those barriers, people were responding even more warmly to him, because they were they've always known he was intelligent. They've always known he was, he had a huge amount of experience working in government and with policy. But this time around, they could also see, the man behind the politician, the man behind the technocrat, the official, and at heart, they could see that he was in it because he really felt very, very strongly about his country, about what he could do for the people.
Can I ask you to pull up, several years from now? I mean, what would have made 2016 different? This feels different to me from the past elections, but I guess what trends make this different?
Well, one of the things I think was very, very significant in this election is something you should be happy about. It's the increased power of social media. I don't think that any subsequent election can afford to ignore the influence of social media. To a large extent, I actually think that that's why Mayor Duterte surged in the ratings. They were the most aggressive on social media.
We saw it first on social.
Yes. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in the sense that social media allows for a more intimate level of engagement with the voter. You don't just listen. You can actually participate. You can comment. You can debate. You can point out things that you agree with or don't agree with. But on the other hand, and this is the alarming thing, and in a way, I'm worried about future elections if this trend continues. It's so easy to propagate misinformation. It's so easy to, let's be blunt, to lie on social media. And a lot of supporters of Mayor Duterte in particular really resorted to a huge amount of lying throughout this election. And the thing is, it was difficult to respond. They'd come out with a meme which was completely false, which was completely baseless, and to counter it, you had to focus and spend the next 24 hours doing nothing but answering. In the meantime, damage done. Some people who see the original false claim will not see the corrections or the explanations later on, and that's something I suppose that candidates and campaigns will have to deal with moving forward.
Edwin,
from an air war perspective, I think from the traditional broadcasts, this is the first time where negative ads were featured. The Omnibus Election Code permits negative ads, but however, no particular election except I think for the one of where Yoli Ong is being sued now by Juan Ponce and
Rita,
Rita.
yeah. Yeah.
But this one is the first time where negative ads were really used at the very last part of the campaign. And I think the COMELEC should really come up with rules and regulations on negative ads. It's in the law.
Yeah.
And how is it that it is being that Senator Cayetano was able to restrain it? That's
Yeah.
something. That's
Again.
an area where I think COMELEC and our lawmakers should revisit the existence of negative ads. I think it should be allowed, and I think that's prevalent in the States. It's all about free expression.
Right.
On the social media side, you have never seen that the level of vileness,
Yeah.
the level of cyberbullying, the level of uncouthness on social media. It's like, and I say this with all due respect to Mayor Digong. Mayor Digong has brought up the worst because of the way that he projects himself. It allows the worst in us to come up to the surface. And people that you don't normally would think that would speak or act that way, suddenly it's a totally different persona. Maybe there's at some point maybe psychologists should study what drove the followers of Mayor Duterte to do that. Maybe it's just the same as during the fanaticism to Adolf Hitler. Maybe it's a kind of the kind of rabidness that you see during those times. But it has presented a very negative view on how we conduct ourselves. That's the reason why the idea of Mar speaking about decency, honesty, integrity found more resonance. Maybe perhaps with Grace, it wouldn't have found that resonance. But contrast yourself to somebody who is so vile, who just cusses in every campaign, who promises to kill without due process. That's vile, that's crude, that's crass. That's when we presented the decency in the Filipino, it struck a nerve in the ordinary Filipinos. That's where it said, I'm a decente tayo. Decente tayong mga Pilipino. Decente ang ating lahi. That's where people began to see again, yes, I want to be decent. I don't want to be somebody who is vile, who will curse. I want to be a role model for my children.
It's actually been fascinating watching all of it on social media because both sides have been there, and let me be the devil's advocate to say that there's also this urge for authenticity, and that's part of what he taps, all of the all warts and all, right? And that this shows the frustration with the authority, as in only that you don't see everything that's there, that it is transparency. How would you react to that?
I'm not sure. Well, you've seen all the frustrations. You've
Yes,
seen the MRT. By the way, the MRT, the new set of trains ran yesterday.
Okay.
So they ran yesterday.
Okay.
But there have been so many problems in the past 6 years. Well, we've always said that for reforms to take root, you need at least 10 years to do that. We're at the middle of the reform period.
Okay.
We're foundation building.
Yeah.
We're building we've disturbed so many rice bowls. And to that extent, you've created a lot of enemies. In the process of reforming, improving society, we're still, in a sense, if it's literally you're building a flyover, we're causing too much traffic down there. We're causing too much disturbance on the ground. That's where you see the frustrations come. But we're gonna move past that. MRT, we're fixing that. It's all, the concerns of our government are all technical. It requires a technical solution, and we have a technical solution. You talk about MRT, you talk about traffic. These problems require a technical solution, and we're doing that. So Mar promises decongestion, Mar promises moving the airport away from Manila to Clark. These are very practical technical solutions that are being studied already, and when he becomes president, he will do it. But we recognize those frustrations, and that's why we need to sit down and really, 6 years. That's why 6 years is not enough. It won't be enough. You have another 6 years for the reforms to continue. I guarantee you, when Lenny run for president, it's gonna be she's gonna win hands down, because the next 12 years, 6 under President Aquino and 6 hopefully under President Roxas, will pave the way for everything to move us to a first world, not necessarily first world, but higher than where we are right now. But we are. We have changed a lot of the status quo. And you see that it's recognized by our international observers, both financial and diplomatic community. They know that it's not a different Philippines from where we are right now, but sure, we need to improve the conditions of our country, and we recognize it, and we're doing that slowly because of how government is structured. But by the way, Mar also has a plan how to expedite all these processes. That's part of his plan.
Were you surprised by Lennys' rise? I mean, she came
No.
from. Look at both of you
No.
vehemently.
I'll tell you why. I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. I'll tell you why. I was the one who suggested that Lenny be the running mate, and I knew that they have the same narrative. They both joined public service because of death in the family. Dingoy died, the brother of Mar died, Jesse died, Lenny entered public service. We know that her narrative was powerful.
When her name was actually first considered to be the running mate of Mar, many of us in the campaign were really excited because we felt that Lenny, even if she was not that popular at that point in time, people did not really know who she was. She would be an easy sell because we knew who she was. We knew her record. We knew that what she could do, how she could project herself. So the only problem was actually introducing her to people. And once that was done,
Yeah.
it was easy. It was easy
But
to actually convince people to support her,
It is-
particularly since she was running against people who were very, very
Who had the national stage, right?
yes.
I mean,
But not to say that there were no reservations
Yes.
when Lenny was brought up.
yeah.
yes.
There were reservations, of course. How does someone who just had 3 years of congressional experience run as vice president? But here's the thing, we were not looking on personalities.
Yeah.
We were looking on the platform of good governance. We need to continue, warts and all, again, warts
Yeah.
and all,
Yeah.
the 6 years that President Aquino has started. That's why we were focused on what tandem would best bring out the reforms that President Aquino has started. If you wanted someone popular, we could have gotten, for instance, Senator Cayetano or
Yes.
some others who have a high stature in politics as well as in society.
Yes.
But no, Mar felt that this is about good governance. I need someone, a partner, who will be with me as we steer the ship in the next 6 years.
Okay.
That's why he chose, against all reservations, he chose Lenny Robredo.
Besides, Roro really sounds cool. So,
So you've had 6 years now, and then these campaigns that you've gone through. I guess, how would you characterize the Filipino voter? How would you characterize our democracy at this point in time?
I'll say this with all sincerity. When sometimes I wonder what kind of Filipino voters will think about this thing or that thing, I'm reminded, Butch would always tell me, I think it was what Cory told him. He said, have faith in the Filipino people. They'll eventually decide what is right. And so we're going through as Ronnie Holmes said, there's a 25% who have suddenly become undecided. This is now the time for us to discern. Families are having Mother's Day lunch today.
And they're all talking about it.
Should be discussed.
yeah. I'll admit, there were times in the campaign when I was really discouraged. There was just so much viciousnness, particularly online, being thrown our way. People were acting in a really disappointing manner. But as Sec Edwin said, eventually your faith will be rekindled when you see Filipinos stepping up and being, the good persons that they actually are. So when people in the silent majority first started coming out, that was a huge, not just a political boost, but a moral boost for the campaign. The funny thing there is, in the first few days that Facebook group for the silent majority was formed, it was like a support group. People would run there and seek some kind of affirmation because many of them had been victims of online bullying, cyberbullying, mainly by
We didn't
Duterte
really
supporters.
touch it, yeah.
So
cases were filed, right? There
Yes.
are two major ones
But
now.
yeah, but the I think the most important thing was it became a support group. You could go there, people would tell you, no, there are a lot of us. You were in the right. Here are the arguments we can use. We can still be reasonable and decent, etc. when we engage. And I think that that common space allowed people to be more courageous and to step up. And that's really been a huge boost politically for the campaign. Members of the silent majority would go to their offices, would go to their neighbors, their friends, and convince them to shift to Mar and Lenny. And there are many stories which we have posted online, which are on the silent majority, about people who formerly supported Mayor Duterte, for example, but who were convinced to
There are
to
many
shift to Mar.
road to Damascus experiences in this campaign.
And that's inspiring. Despite the fact that there were times when it seemed bleak, as Sec Edwin said, ultimately your faith in the Filipino will be fulfilled.
Okay, your last thoughts moving into tomorrow. What needs to happen for Mar and Lenny to win?
Like I said this a while ago, the war has shifted to the ground. Our supporters are fired up. There's fire in the belly. They will be voting early to ensure that they'll be able to. All our supporters will be there. Our machinery is working, and so all we need is just be there, show up, and let God do the rest. Let the people do the rest.
But this is a very finicky public right now, right? I mean, the other part of this campaign is the rise of Marcos. Who would have thought from 1986 until now, right?
No, that has an explanation, Maria. Education, the martial law experience has never been explained in detail for those millennials who were growing up.
But it's not the millennials who are supporting him.
Right.
It's largely the 40s and 50s.
For those who did not experience martial law
okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
and also the fact that you always tend to remember the good, never the bad. Except for those who have personally experienced the tragedy of martial law. For them, they remember there were so many constructions, there were so many infrastructure being built. That's what they remember. They forgot that we were in such financial doldrums then. So we need to remind people of what the Marcoses have done. And I think there's also have to be a change in our curriculum with respect to exposing our youth to martial law.
But
it should never happen
I
again.
remember in 1986, it was after People Power, the whole thing it's reconciliation, it's unity.
We
The
have
same
a
call.
short memory. The Filipinos tend to have a short memory. And we're such a forgiving people that we sometimes do not demand justice before forgiveness.
Unlike so many other countries that went through a period of dictatorship and then renewal, restoration of democracy, we didn't really have a process for closure. We didn't have a truth commission. We didn't have trials. We didn't have people actually being indicted for their acts during the dictatorship. And until recently, with the passage of the Marcos Compensation Bill, which has a provision on martial law teaching, we really didn't have an institutionalized effort to teach the martial law experience to the next generation. So, in a way, it's really our fault, our collective fault for not putting enough emphasis on learning from the lessons.
That's why we're
of
building a
martial
martial law museum and a human rights.
Yes.
All things to remind the excesses of the past.
What are the chances of a Duterte and Marcos win?
The Filipino people will do the right thing. And never again.
Any last thoughts, Barry?
We're hopeful. We're less than 12 hours away from the opening of polls, and we feel good. As Edwin has repeatedly said, our main advantage is momentum going forward. And secondly, the machinery is solid. We have been bedeviled this entire past 6 months by reports that supposedly our local leaders would defect to the other side. But that has not happened. To a large extent, the support of local leaders remains very, very solidly behind Mar and Lenny, and that will be a huge advantage going forward.
May I just make one plea?
Please, always.
There's been a disinformation on Duterte votes and being converted to Mar.
Yeah.
Yes, please. That's great. Thank you.
I've spoken to our lawyers in the places that allegedly happened. It never happened.
Okay.
May we ask media
Yeah.
to make sure that if there's such a report, the first thing that they should ask is, where is that precinct? Because to be able to determine where that precinct is, for us to be able to immediately address that, if that is true.
We can give it to you. In fact, I know that we have that
Yeah.
report, but we can give it to you right after. Yeah.
COMELEC has actually already issued a clarification because there were rumors floating around social media, and unfortunately, some of these rumors were repeated by supposedly reputable sources in the Duterte campaign. That some of the VCM testing produced the result where you'd vote for one candidate and you'd get another. But the COMELEC has actually already denied that. None of the tests that they conducted on the machines had instances where ballots were misread. If there were technical problems, it was never the misreading of ballots. So again,
Okay.
we hope that that's something we can all move past here.
No, I'm glad you heard to hear that from you. I know that we did run a story, so we'll give you the details.
At
of
the very
case.
least,
Yeah.
please immediately alert the COMELEC so it can be addressed.
Wonderful.
Because we've won 2010, we won 2013, we won without cheating. So we don't intend to start cheating now. We will win this the honest way.
Wonderful.
We
It's
will.
good. It's good to see you again, Edwin.
Thank you,
and
Maria.
Barry, thank you for coming to Rappler.
Happy to
let's-
be in your new offices, Maria.
Thanks again. We just heard from the Agmatawid Coalition spokesman, Edwin Lacerda, and Liberal Party spokesman, Barry Gutierrez.